Hello, wrestling fanatics. Welcome back to the 10 count. I'm RBV, and today we are talking tag teams, all things tag teams. John Poz, with all the shows you do, many people out there, they call you one of the top tag team specialists.
Wow. I love that. That's not bad. I'd love to be compared to like an Arn Anderson type or a Tully or a Bobby Eaton.
Well, with all those shows you do, though, others also compare you to Tammy Lynn Cinches that you get around quite a bit in the business.
Oh, that's not good. Ouch.
Have a little fun with you, brother. It is great to be back with you right here on the 10 count. We've had this run in our files for a while. I know, and you've been every week. When we're going to do the tag team show. Well, here it is, brother. And we're going to break it down. We're going to go through the eras. We're going to talk about the greats, the not so greats, all the spots in between. But it is about the duos getting it done inside of the square circle. So, Poz, we're going to kick it off as we do. Being your history buffs when it comes to professional wrestling. So, throughout the decades, in all of the eras, when Poz was the greatest era for tag team wrestling?
I know people will say different things and they'll bring up different times and different time periods, but I got to go 1980s. Has to be 1980s, in my opinion, just because the WWF was so strong with their tag division. NWA was so strong, if you want to say WCW, but like those were the era to me of the great tag teams and just, Midnights versus Rock and Roll Express and WWF and Hart Foundation and the Bulldogs, and the list goes on and on and on. I just think to me, 80s for sure, and it's kind of, I don't even know if there's really up for debate. I know people love some of those late 90s teams and stuff, but I got to go 80s to be honest. And even like throwing the Road Warriors, throwing the Steiner brothers starting in the 80s, I got to go 80s.
Yeah, it really is hard to dispute that, out of the gate here. And I was, kind of related to the rock and wrestling era. But as you said, that 80s, because across the board, the two front runners with Crockett, with the NWA kind of, evolving into WCW, everything that was happening in the WWF in all the territories. Everybody had some big name tag teams that were on the uprise, big time superstars. I think what really shined about that time period is that, you had tag teams that were the headliners, that were selling out, the B shows that were traveling around the country, and top to bottom, just absolutely stacked when we talk about star power. It is interesting, though, that you mentioned, and I'd like to say, hey, leave us a comment on this if you can make an argument for any other period in wrestling that dominated the tag team scene. But yeah, it almost seems though that, Mr. Russo, you said you just got done recording with, that he kind of refocused and revitalized a little bit of that tag team scene, trying to find spots and, to put together that puzzle to plug people into.
It's very important, to the era. If you look at it, it's like, wow, what are some hot periods in wrestling? They usually had good tag teams involved.
Yeah, you're right. As we talk about some of those greats out there, we do look at that Attitude Era, and we bring up the Dudleys and Edge and Christian and the Hardys in the conversation with the greats. So maybe right there, that Attitude Era, maybe, even Hall and Nash, I consider such a great tag team. A lot of people look at them as single stars, but what they did as a team. So maybe, just maybe, the Attitude Era, the Monday Night Wars era could push the 80s for that greatest era there.
Love it.
Hey, how about this one? This is the time-old question. The great debate amongst wrestling fans here, brother. I want to know which one you got, Poz. Demolition or the Road Warriors? Which one were you down with?
So this is actually probably harder than you would think. Like, I know so many people just slam dunk Road Warriors, slam dunk Legion of Doom, Demolition is a ripoff of them, whatever they want to say. But to be honest, if you really look at it, Demolition were actually better in ring. They were the better workers. They had a lot of better matches. You know what I mean? They were more of a, I guess you could say maybe cohesive unit, just as far as work rate inside the ring was concerned. They were just better, flat out. I mean, there's no kind of doubt about it. But LOD was more over. They were cooler. They were just had more charisma. They had more star power. Just everything about them was just unbelievable. They're just one of the greatest tag teams of all time. There's no doubt about it. But it's funny how close it is that people don't realize that. And Demolition was dominating WWF. They were, for many, many decades, the longest reigning WWF tag team champions of all time. And that was during the hottest period of all time. And they were so over. And theme music and everything else. It's just that it is super close for me, to be honest, maybe closer than people realize, or maybe than it really should be. But I'll go LOD. I'll go Road Warriors because I love the Road Warriors. I just think the star power and the charisma overtakes them. But if you want to go in ring, you might have to go Demolition. But I'm definitely going to go Road Warriors.
Look at you with the move sets and the rope work comparison. I'm going
Yes.
complete nostalgia act here. I
Yeah.
grew up. I was a Demolition kid. My
Yeah.
fondest memories they lie with Demolition. I'm not trying to dismiss the Road Warriors, the Legion of Doom. They were absolutely dogs, bad mama jammas. The Road Warrior pop, the look. In a time where you had big bulky guys. I mean, these were like the first like muscle monsters that I remember, even a little bit terrifying as a kid watching them. And I watched all their stuff. But for me, even back then, though, even if you're in Crockett, NWA, WCW, it still took when you went to the WWF, in my little eyes, that's when you arrived. That was the big time for you. So, and it was Demolition who was at the big time. And I know now, looking back on it, that they were a play off of it. They were just trying to say, okay, we're going to mine our own gold here, create something similar to it to see if we can have some success. And they absolutely did that in Demolition. Pin Hamian regularly says that good artists create great artists, steal and make it their own. That's what you got from Demolition. And for me, man, the act and the smasher, baby, that's what it was about when I was a kid. Total Demolition for me, brother. So, a great debate. I know a lot of people would easily go Road Warriors on that, but me personally, with that nostalgia, axe and smash for me, baby. Let's keep it with the Road Warriors here, though, my friend. You got to choose this one. This might be a little tougher than the last one there. Hawk or Animal? Which Road Warrior was more impactful? Which one would you go with on your roster?
This is a tough one. I mean, it really is when you really look at it, because obviously they're both awesome. One of the greatest teams of all time, the greatest looks of all time, the theme music, just the charisma out the yin yang, the it factor out the yin yang. Hawk maybe better on the mic, you could say, had those great, what a rush. He had great voice, great promo. Maybe better in ring, just as far as he came off the top more. Maybe he could do more in ring, but I don't know. I gotta go Animal. I just loved that he was like the just a brute force, the brute power of the team. Could work a little too as well. There's no doubt about it. But I don't know why. I go Animal. I just thought he was. I don't know, something about him. He was just maybe a tad, an inch cooler than Hawk. I don't know, something about Animal. I just liked it. He was, and obviously, the powerhouse of the team. So I'll go a little bit. I'll go shade Animal.
I'm going to put over Animal here with you a little bit, just to kind of piggyback on some of the things that you said there, Poz. I think you really hit that. I think he was more of the workhorse, the ground and pound. I think he was probably better for you in a locker room in a long term if you're signing somebody single to it. And by the way, when these two did split up, it just seemed so weird, didn't it? To see them not together doing things, or when they were tagging with other people. It just seemed so unnatural. But I think long term, you probably go Animal as a better signing for a company. But I'm going completely the other way there, brother. 6th grade RBV and his friend Kirk Fisher dress up as the Legion of Doom. And I'm the charismatic one. I'm the vocal one. I'm the one that's agile, athletic. I'm going all Hawk all day. As you said, man, he was the one on the mic. He was the attention grabber, the charismatic one. And I think if you're looking to sign him and you got a short-term run with him, like you did back then in the territories, that's who you want to bring in. Obviously, though, maybe some locker room issues, some, the demons that we would see come out later on in his career. But hey, I don't think you go wrong either way, bringing in the Road Warriors individually. But yeah, always best to keep them together.
Great.
Let's talk about tag. One of the things in the tag team division is you see when the teams split or they lose a member, it's so hard. It's just like in a band, right? It's hard to find that replacement. But if there was one team that had done that and has been reinvented numerous of times, that is the Midnight Express. Poz, real quick, I'll let you do this one here. Share with the fans out there, maybe not familiar, the evolution, the change and the reasons behind the different members to the Midnight Express.
Well, through the years, I mean, there's been a ton of different members if you really want to look at it. But I feel like the most famous ones was Eaton and Condrey, and that obviously started in the early to mid 80s, and they were around forever. Condrey had some issues. Condrey had some things going on. Condrey kind of steps away. Bob Eaton and Cornette are still there. Obviously, Cornette managing the team, and then Lane comes in and fills in the Condrey role because Condrey basically just said, "Screw this, I'm out of here. I'm going home." I've talked to him about it. He was saying there were some money issues and different things like that, but a lot of the guys were saying maybe some extracurricular activities going on with maybe some extra stuff doing behind the scenes that he was maybe getting too into, and he wanted to be closer to home. And there's many different issues and reasons behind it. Who knows, really, though? I know Dennis was saying a lot of it had to do with money reasons, and he was just done, and he wanted to be closer to home, or he'd rather just work less because he had been working so much, especially mid South. I mean, just the drives and the territory was just horrible, and they were feuding with Rock and Roll Express all the time, and then them not getting their fair share and their fair shake of the money when they were drawing better, when they were in the NWA and JCP, when they were drawing better than Flair and Dusty at some points. So there's obviously probably a multitude of issues, but basically Condrey leaves, goes home, and he kind of leaves Eaton and Cornette by themselves, and they recruited Stan Lane to the team, and obviously that becomes the Midnight Express for several years, and then Stan eventually, is getting tired of it, and him and Cornette leave, and they go to Smoky Mountain, and they start the Heavenly Bodies with Dr. Tom, and then Stan Lane retires, and then obviously Jimmy Del Rey. So I mean, it kind of goes on and on and on. Obviously, there was Midnight Express before Eaton and Condrey as well.
So, which is your pick there as you
Oh,
break that all down?
sorry. The best one is definitely Lane and Eaton. I love Condrey. I think he may be the better worker of everybody, but to me, just amazing. I've just something with the chemistry of them and just something with Cornette. I don't know. Maybe it's the time frame of when I really got into them was maybe in that period, but I think Eaton and Lane, I just love that combination. It just was kind of different. And Lane brought something completely different to the table.
I'm surprised no hat tip, no mention of like a bodacious Bob in there or anything. They
Oh, yeah,
tried
true. Yeah. Bart. Yeah, true.
Bart and Bob when they
Mhm.
was it the new Midnight Express that they tried the
Yeah.
WWF all
Yes.
those years later. A little
Shit.
shout
Maybe
out
it's
to
them.
them.
Yeah, maybe it's them.
Yes. Uh, Absolutely. I got to go with you on that one. I think Cordry, man, they were clicking. They had a great run. They were on the map there, but and it's so tough, especially when you're going to be that next guy up. But it's such an upgrade with Lane, where even the look, the style, everything gelled together, and they were able. And I think that could have been too, because you have Eaton and Cornette really finding themselves. So everything working together is that second edition, if you will, 2.0 for the Midnight Express. Hard to disagree with you on that one. Hey, when it comes to those big moments, you got to have those big finishers for those championship goals. We were talking, Demolition with theirs, LOD over the top. The Midnight had theirs. It's the big finishers, those combo moves that put away their opponents that win those championships. Best tag finisher, Poz.
Man, there's so many good ones. There's a million ones. A million ones that Midnight Express that so many teams copy that don't kind of get the credit for it. Like the Vegematic. I mean, there's the double slapjack. I mean, there's a million of them that they invented. Even the total elimination, by the way, people kind of give Saturn Cronus credit. That's an old Midnight Express move. They did it a little bit differently, but that's a Midnight Express move that
Oh,
they
I
kind of
forgot
adapted
about
and
that
stolen.
one.
Yeah, so that's a good one. But I'm gonna go Doomsday Device for like obvious one, and then one that got used very sparingly because it was so dangerous. The Steiner Brothers top rope DDT.
Yeah, high risk. That's one of those you kind of hold your breath on. The
Yes.
Doomsday Device was so over the top as well as you go because you got those big monstrous dudes, Hawk and Animal, and then you just lift that opponent even higher like that for the Doomsday Device. But I also got to throw out there that I always enjoyed, man, was the Heart Attack from the Heart
Yes.
Foundation.
Great one. Yep.
Tag team finishers there. Hey, we're talking about a lot of the greats from the past here, Paz. Let's see me get that off there. Let's take a look at the modern uh, tag team ranks out there and talk about the best active tag team going?
There's a bunch of good teams nowadays. I feel like the tag team scene maybe isn't as focused on really as it could be or maybe should be, but there are some great teams. Obviously, Young Bucks, they come up. I know the Lucha Brothers don't really team anymore, but they were obviously a great team of the current era. But I got to go FTR. I just think that they're the most complete team, the best team, a throwback team, if you will. I think it's got to be FTR.
There's something with FTR that just doesn't set right with me. And I know right now tag team wrestling is so down. As regularly, I cover the blue brand for WWE over on the Smack Attack, and it is like a low point of the show. I have to talk about that tag division each and every week. Raw's not that much better. I know AEW, they're putting some effort into theirs, but it's just a lot of repetitiveness. It doesn't make a lot of sense inside of their matches. It's listening to a lot of the fundamentals. And FTR, they come off as one of those, oh, we respect the history and all that. We'll simply, I mentioned earlier about great artist sample. We'll go out there and just emulating a complete match, move by move. It is not making it your own. It's not a tribute. It's rather pathetic to me. So, for the best active team for me, it's going to be one of those that comes from another generation that's still getting it done, and that is the Hardy Boys. I think they're still out there reinventing themselves, putting on absolute bangers with fresh, younger talent and helping them evolve. And I hope that a lot of these young teams, a lot of these young talents are just flat out learning a lot from working with Matt and Jeff there.
Well said.
Well, we got all these guys we're talking about. We don't want anybody start calling us sexist or anything like that there, Poz. Been a lot of great female tag teams over the years. Who you got as the greatest female team of all time?
Not really sure on this one. This was a tough one for me. I know there's some like Joshi tag teams from the All Japan Women that people go crazy about, and there's all these different. But really, kind of the first tag team that kind of comes to mind when I think of like greatest female tag team would probably be like the Glamour Girls, like Judy Martin and Leilani Kai, like a team of that ilk, of that generation. I know you're going to say Sasha Banks and Bailey, and they threw or who was it, Sasha Banks and Trinity or whatever, they threw the titles down, they left, but I don't know. I guess I'll go Glamour Girls on that one.
I do want to put over for modern tag teams here. I do kind of like what AEW, where they're going towards. They're, as they're getting ready to launch that division, and they're putting some people together that look like teams. Yeah, I'm waiting for them to start getting some finishers and things like that. So a little hat tip out there to Mr. Khan, wanting to do things a little bit right there. But we're talking greatest female tag teams of all time. You got Glamour Girls. Bro, how you missed this one right here? The Beautiful People.
Ah, good point. Good point.
Hey, helped carry the ball, just not for a division, but in TNA back in the day when the Knockouts division was the hottest thing going in professional wrestling. If they were in singles, tag teams, whatever the case might be, Angelina Love, Velvet Sky, definitely redefining the game. And hey, congratulations, they are going into the TNA Hall of Fame.
Yeah, congratulations. Awesome.
Now we've had, a lot of guys, they go into the singles, they go through the different ranks there, Poz, but they just kind of keep finding their way back to the tag division. Let's talk the GOAT, greatest of all time, as a tag specialist. Who is that individual?
There's a lot of guys, like when you think about it, that were a part of great tag teams, but maybe they were part of a couple of great tag teams. And that's one of those things. Maybe it's harder than people realize it, because you have to have chemistry not only with your partner, but then the other two wrestlers. So it's basically four guys being on the same page. So that one wrestler could basically kind of set the pace and really kind of put the match together and really be the glue guy and really kind of put everything together. So I feel like it's almost like underappreciated, like some of these tag specialists that they're like, oh, they're just a tag team guy for the whole career. It's kind of important to a certain aspect. And, some of them obviously were great singles guys, but guys that really come to mind is like the great tag team specialists. Got to be like Arn Anderson definitely comes to mind. He was in so many great tag teams and so many great tag team matches. Felt like, wow, this guy could be teaming up with Tully. He'd be teaming up with even Paul Roma. Some of those matches I really like. He could be teaming up with Bobby Eaton. He could be teaming up with. He could be teaming up an awesome team with Ole Anderson. So I feel like Arn is one of those guys that's definitely a tag team specialist that was awesome. And then, like I said, Bobby Eaton. Let's look at that. He worked with Dennis Condrey, an awesome team. Lane, an awesome team. Arn Anderson, an awesome team. Then if you even look at the Blue Bloods, which was fun for a while with Regal, that was a fun team. So Eaton and Arn Anderson, it literally, you just do a toss up and throw up a coin and just feel like, well, who's better, Arn or Eaton? Arn, Eaton, depending on what day it is. And I don't know, I'll throw up the quarter today and lands on head. So I'll go Arn for today as the GOAT tag team specialist.
Hey, you're talking about some of those old school names. Had a shout out to your boy, Dr. Pritchard.
Yeah, another
involved
awesome
in some great tag teams, but I think I'm going to go a little modern for my pick here. He's done it in a bunch of different promotions. Came in as a tag guy, worked his way up. Has always kind of found himself in that spot. And you said so important that to have an individual where your style can mesh, not just mesh and complement anyone that you're in there tagging with there, but elevate them up. And I got to go with one Claudio Castagnoli, who I think has done a tremendous job everywhere he's been in the tag ranks. They've been with the Kings of Wrestling. Look at that run through WWE where Tyson Kidd, he had a great run with. He was been with Wade Barrett there, Nakamura as tag team champions, Jack Swagger with the Real Americans, and even now continue with the different match types that he's a part of over in AEW. Anybody that gets in there, opponent, but especially if you're on his side as a tag team partner, you're going to be elevated working with him.
You didn't mention the Bar, him and Sheamus. You didn't like that team?
Oh, the Bar, yes. Yeah, I just there's so many of them there. I absolutely love the Bar, man. The bangers that we're talking about, man.
What about the Death Riders? Are you a Death Riders fan at all?
You know what? I wanted, the story was fine with it. I didn't get off of that, most fans were calling for the end of the Death Riders a while ago. To me, the Death Riders should have kind of dissolved when they lost the Big Show it all out. That was the big payoff. Well, you don't keep the gang hanging out in town once the new sheriff runs them out, right? but they just continue to keep doing the same thing there. So it's worn a little thin on me, but still love me some Claudio.
And now they're adding guys into. Is Claudio going to be teaming up with Garcia next? I mean, what are they doing? Like, his Pac is back? Are they going to team up with Pac? Like, what are they going to do?
Yeah. All right, a little different here than when we had on the run, but this has been up there. Mr. Tommy Dreamer recently we talked about the Hardys earlier, and said it, compared to them to that they are the greatest tag team of all time. And I've seen this kind of argument coming up here in some different groups. So I thought I wanted to talk to you about this. And I think there's a lot of parallels, and it's a fair conversation. The Young Bucks or the Hardys, who would you rank higher as in your greatest tag teams and overall impact that each team, no pun intended, has had on the professional wrestling business?
This is another one where you would kind of think like Demolition LOD would be a slam dunk, but when you actually think about it, it wouldn't be not so fast. You know what I mean? The little Lee Corso there, not so fast, my friend. Let's wait a second here. So really, my general feeling would be, Hardys, definitely. Oh, it's got to be Hardys. But Young Bucks have been teaming for decades now. They've had awesome matches pretty much everywhere they've been. They've kind of been, glue guys to a certain extent in certain companies. I know New Japan, people kind of were thinking they were more over than they were, but I think they were more like lower card New Japan guys. Definitely Ring of Honor, they're main event guys. It's just one of those things where, yes, they were over. I don't know if they were necessarily main event, so I wouldn't say huge impact as far as New Japan was concerned. Maybe New Japan USA, maybe Ring of Honor for sure. But the fact that they helped start a brand new promotion, and obviously promotion's AEW, it's still going on. Without them, does it even start? I know Omega is a huge part. I know Cody Rhodes is a big part, but without them, does it really start? So you got to put that into their impact as well, because without AEW, where's WWE right now? Is with Vince, and they were horrible, and horrible main events. It was just so boring. And then AEW comes along, thanks to parts of the Young Bucks, and then WWE starts kicking ass and taking names, and they shoot off. So it's a little harder than you would think. And the match quality too. It's like we could say they're just flippity floppity guys and they just do stuff with no psychology, but they're having awesome matches. In my opinion, all the time. They're kind of always over. The crowd, excuse me, is really into them. So I don't know. This is actually harder than I think. I would just lean a little bit Hardy Boys just because of maybe a little bit nostalgia too. But I just feel like they've been around for so long. They're still over. They're still winning tag titles. They're literally the reason why people have 5,000 tickets that got sold for the BFG show coming up for TNA, or a huge part of the reason. I went to Philly last year. The Hardy Boys are doing autograph signings. like the 1,000 people there. They all stayed to meet the Hardy Boys afterwards. It was crazy. It was like, man, these guys are like the Beatles out here. They're just so over. So I would lean slightly Hardys, but it's way closer than you think. And obviously the Young Bucks love the Hardys too. Kind of somewhat of an homage to the Hardy Boys.
Yeah, again, I thought this would, when I threw this out there, this is going to be a slam dunk. It's got to be Hardy's. But when you really start looking at those parallels between these two, obviously the nostalgia, so many great memories with the Hardys, and all these years, as I said just a moment ago, they've gone out there, reinvented themselves. They have helped carry companies, bring eyes towards the different products anywhere that they have been. They have, they've left it a much better place. But in defense of the Bucks, they never really had that WWE rub. They went out there and did this on their own, and got over and got their merch, the Bullet Club stuff into the Hot Topics, which that inside of itself it speaks volumes of their vision, their drive, and their commitment to their brand. I love the Bucks in New Japan. I much prefer the style, the attitude that we got from them in that strong style than what we get here, sports entertainment style, especially that we've seen come to prominence with AEW. But again, a much tougher call down the middle when you line these guys up. But I gotta go, just a slight over there to the Hardys. I think just the great matches, again, what they've meant to each and every company, household names at this point. And the great stories too, the connection with the crowd, the stories of overcoming all different obstacles, of it be just the relationship, things like that, substance abuse, and they keep bouncing back, and that connection they have with the audience is something special. And a shout out that they are going to Ben and his boys up there, 2CW have booked the Hardys coming up on their big show November 22nd there in upstate New York. They've got a whole Friday night with the Hardys, with the concert and the podcast and all that. So if you have an opportunity out there, make sure that you check that out. Well, Poz, that brings us to that big moment, our pop of the week.
Yes.
I wanted to do something a little different here, Poz. I went through a bunch of the memes and all that, but it's tag team wrestling. And I wanted to share a very personal, intimate story with you involving one of the great tag teams out there, man. And something I really got to get off my chest here. So the year was early 1980s something. And out of Bodunka, Tennessee, running the Bodunka Civic Center, the Fantastics stopped in a Waffle House along the way. They're exit 17. And Poz, wouldn't you know, the Fantastics, they tag teamed my grandma in a Waffle House bathroom. Everybody, how about one more time, the beautiful people there? We love you here on the 10 Count. We'll see you next episode.